Well, I'm glad to be here, guys. My name is Lorraine Brock. I am a professional organizer and owner of a company called Get Organized, which um, is a professional organizing company that actually goes into your home and actually provides all types of organizing services, from the closet to the garage to packing, unpacking, IT organization, and so much more. And today I want to share with you guys a little bit about my journey, about my history, and then be able to tell you sort of how I did it, because there's a market out there for a lot of things that people have ideas for, or has some kind of dream, a passion of theirs. And in order to make that happen, it takes a lot of stuff. And sometimes you think you have to go to school to know that stuff, and you absolutely do not. Now I can say I've learned, the old fashioned way, but there's a lot of resources. And if you're willing to do the research, you can own and start your own business and make profit from it. You got to make sure it's the right idea and the right market. And without a lot of, research into it, you can just narrow your research into your small audience or small group around you and use those people to funnel ideas through. So I'm going to share with you sort of my journey. Along the way, I'm going to give you some tips and ideas of what you can do if you're interested in starting your own business, sort of the steps you got to think about. Some of them will be beginning steps. Some you'll obviously learn as we go through. And then I'm going to open it up if anyone has any questions towards the end. So I'm going to watch my time and be able to answer your specific questions about starting a business, and particularly maybe your market or something that you're interested in, give you sort of my feedback, because the market's changed definitely from when I started. So we're going to start with sharing a PowerPoint. I'm going to give you a little history, and then I'm going to stop that PowerPoint again towards the end. We'll take questions. So let me get that going here. Okay, I'm going to share my screen. Okay. Let me do slideshow. Okay. Hope you're all able to see that. And so Mompreneur is definitely a passion of mine that's turned into a business. I really had nothing really to offer, so I thought, and I think it's really cool that I was able to take something that was a passion of mine and turn it into a profitable business. So I call that a mompreneur. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about my journey. I was a stay-at-home mom. I was married a little bit out of high school, and about 4 years later, we had our first child. I never wanted to be anything but a stay-at-home mom. I really loved that role of taking care of my home and my family, and I took great pride in it. But I also was very resourceful during that time. If I didn't know how to fix a water sprinkler head, by golly, I was going to figure it out. So I was a problem solver by nature, and not only with people, like, conflicts, but I was a problem solver when it came to manual household tasks. And I didn't realize that until later on, when I was starting to get into this business. I realized that those skills that I had as a mom and as an individual, I could use for my business. So I chose to stay at home, and I had 3 boys in eventually. And I graduated high school, like I said, with no degree. It was something I went to college for about a year, and said, this is just not for me. And obviously got married and had my family. I had no real skills, or so I thought. One of the things that I mentioned, that I was a problem solver. The other thing was that I realized that I was a good teacher. And how I realized that is people kept asking me to teach them something. This is going to sound really funny, but in our church, I taught bus kids. I did Bible lessons and taught like Sunday school class. And I realized I was in front of kids with adults in the background watching me. And I was, bringing instructional truths down to like bare minimum so a child could understand. And from that, I'm like, I really could teach on a really lower level for people that really needed to learn how to do something. Obviously, we'll see in a minute that went into organizing. I told you I mentioned I have 3 young children. Obviously now they're grown men, my youngest being 23. My husband was working full time, if not more, during this time that I was a stay-at-home mom and transitioning into this business world. So he had really no time to offer to help me, though he did here and there. A lot of the thought process and how to just came from researching and doing that myself. So I had no budget. So a stay-at-home mom doesn't have a lot of budget to, especially if you're newly married and with young kids. So we ended up having to, I ended up taking a couple $100s a month out of my spending and grocery budget. And that was the money that I used to initially purchase a few things to make me look more legit. I didn't want to look like like I just, whipped it up in the kitchen and, here I'm going to just start a business, which I sort of did it that way, but I needed to come, my husband calls it your branding, which is absolutely true. Your image and your branding, even if you're not there, even if you don't exactly know what you're all doing, your image and branding can say everything about your company, about if you look professional or not. And so here I just took some budget money of our household budget and turned that into some literature, business cards and such that I was able to put on that professional face, even if, again, if I didn't know 100% what I was doing. I had no knowledge to really start a business. One of the things that I think was very, very good for my background is that my husband had owned a business before, and I, without any degree, I was in charge of doing the hiring process of the paperwork, the I-9s, all the tax documents, making sure they got their insurance in place. And again, we just figured this out as business owners, but I had no real idea of how to start a business. My only example that I can give prior to starting Get Organized was I was in, as a young mom with my first child, I wanted to do a errand running service, and I called it Bag Ladies. And from there, that was just like, call me up, I'll do your grocery shopping. And now we see this as a big business. I mean, I was doing this on a very low level in Waco, Texas, before all these grocery services came on board. So I really, that's it. I mean, I've never registered anything with the state. I didn't know anything about sales tax, where do you advertise? So I really had to think about the legal side of it, very minimal at this time, but definitely had to figure out where people would look for my ideas and services. And I really just thought about where I looked for things. So things to look at for inspiration. And let me just go through these. I looked at what others asked me to do to help them. With that, because I offered a valuable skill to people, but I didn't even know it. What was happening was that people were asking me to do things for them that I didn't even think was a skill, but this repetitiveness came over and over. For example, someone asked me to organize their homeschool room. My niece came to me and says, Aunt Lorraine, will you teach me some time management? I just can't seem to get my household down, my meals, all that. I just feel like I'm just like, I don't know how to do it. Do I use paper? Do I use digital? And this happened over and over and over again. And while I knew people came to me and asked for me for advice, like how to teach them something, even cooking skills, it really started coming together where people were starting to ask me to teach them more things of like organizational skills. And so this is where I became to see the value of the skills that I had to offer. And, little bugs were being put in my ear, so to speak, at this time that, Lorraine, you'd be really good at this. And I'm like, oh, yeah, that sounds good. But, what does it even look like? So again, look at what others ask you to do to help them, because it can become a very valuable skill that you don't even know you have. I looked at what I enjoyed doing over and over and over. And I use over and over 3 times here, but it could be actually 20,000 times. Owning a business sounds really great. But there is a lot of risk and a lot of time for people that build businesses. Um, we've lost mega bucks in certain businesses that we've attempted to do. And that is sort of the entrepreneur spirit. And I'm sort of like, these big businesses and these corporations, I'm glad they make lots of money. I'm absolutely grateful because they have lost so much and they risk so much. And now I see it from being on the other end of it. And, you just have to make sure you're going to wake up every morning, that you're going to love what you're doing, because it can be fun and glamorous at first, and then it becomes reality. I'm tired. I don't want to do it, but you got to do it. And I want you to just think about that, because what is new and exciting can become old and mundane and burned out later on. And you have to ask yourself, what is it that you could do over and over again and that you would find joy, that you would enjoy doing it? So think about that, because you don't want it to be just for a season. You want it to be something that you're going to be able to live with and grow, because it's going to become part of your everyday. When you own a business, you have to mingle it with play. You have to mingle it with family time. You have to, and there's definitely different stages that one will require more time than the other, but your family has to be aware of that. So we'll talk about that too. I looked at how much time I had to commit to a new venture to do it well. And this is in my phase. I was, a mom with 3 children. And at the time that I started to get organized, my youngest was in the middle of his 5th grade year. So he was around 12 years old. I picked my kids up from school. I had dinner on the table when my husband came home. These were the things that I loved and enjoyed. Could I, with this new venture, be able to give and have more time to put into this and do it well? Because if you can only halfway do it, be honest with you, you're probably going to halfway succeed, and you're going to say, well, this is not worth it because I'm not doing well enough, because it takes a large commitment. Now, that commitment can start out very slowly, but you have to be committed to growing it more and more and more, not just staying with a status quo. So I looked at, did I have that time? And because my youngest was in the middle of his 5th grade year, be honest with you, he's about to go to 6th grade. There were some things that I could shift and do. They could feed themselves. They could stay home by themselves for a period of time. So that was a big indicator for me that I was in a transition, that I could give more time. I looked online to see if others were making money doing what I wanted to do. This was it was actually not very many people doing it when I started in 2007 in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, should I say. There was a couple that are still in business today. Most of them have fizzled out. They moved, they went through relationship changes, and that impacts their ability to do these types of businesses, being self-employed, especially when you're starting out, because you don't have the revenue to keep going. You have to stop and go find a full-time job if your life requires that. So I looked online and started researching their websites, started making calls and asking questions. Some would give me information, others would not. What I found out later, the best thing to do is call people that it's outside of your area, like in a different state, and ask them the questions, because they're more likely to give you the answer than your competitor down the street. Like if someone calls me today, I'm not giving them advice about starting an organizing business if they're in my area. I would be hurting myself. I would be silly to do that. So find people outside of your area, and you can probably narrow it down to the ones that have the great websites, that have great followings on Facebook, people that respond rather quickly, meaning they have more free time in the office to respond and not out in the field working. Those people have probably advanced in their business a little bit more, and you can ask them direct questions, and they do not feel like you're going to be competing against them. So see what others are doing, how much money they're making. Every market's going to be different. I actually started at $35 an hour, and it was my rookie price. I just try to figure out what I was worth compared to what other people were charging, And to be honest with you, I needed to come in lower than that because I didn't have the skill. And I believe that it did me well, and I was able to grow and get some experience at that lower rate. And then as I got more experience, more training, more skills, then I was able to charge more. I looked at the effort given versus the dollars gained. This is, oh man, I can't tell you how much this affects everything. This sentence right here alone could go for something that you're wanting to sell or put on consignment. I mean, it can go for like your eBay items. Look at the effort you have to give to sell something and decide if that dollar amount that you're potentially going to get is going to be worth that effort given. And you have to think about that. Same thing with a business. I looked at the effort given versus the dollars gained. And as I got into it more, I could see the effort that was needing to be given versus the dollars that I was receiving. My goal the first year was $5,000. That was my goal to make for organizing. That wasn't even taxes taken out. Who knew about taxes at that point? $5,000 was my limit. And how I came up with that was I wanted enough money to take a vacation every year. That was one of my incentives for starting, is I didn't want to take it out of our family budget. I wanted to actually take it from I wanted to earn it and not have to take it from our family budget. And $5,000 would get us a vacation at that time in 2007. And I was able to pull it off that first year. So I was very glad for that. And it felt good. And I decided it was worth the effort given for the dollars gained. I looked at the impact on my family and my freedom. And this has probably been the most difficult area of all of them for me to balance. So you have to think about, I'm coming from a background of being a stay-at-home mom. I'm in charge of everything in the household, bill paying, the grocery buying, handling handyman services. I mean, I was manager of my home. And now all of a sudden, my extra time, a lot of it is being taken up creating this business, working the business, and then managing the business, all three different things. And there was an impact to my family. I remember my husband, I'm not sure how far, maybe a year or two into this, I remember my husband getting very frustrated with me. And he was like, I think we're going to have to stop this and shut down the business because, it's just, you're not able to manage. And I was like, you're going to have to help me manage it. I mean, this has got to be a team effort. I can't just go into this alone, because you've got to pick up where I can't. If I can't be home with the kids one night, you have to be. And then freedoms. I'm not always able to, especially early on, not able to just turn the TV on and watch a movie at night. Sometimes I have to work after the kids went to bed, or I can't go out on a trip or a vacation because I have a speaking event, or I had a house to organize. You can't tell everyone, oh, I want to go out of town, I want to reschedule you. Well, that will work once or twice, but it's not going to work consistently. So you do have to turn down for a period of time some work that you're trying to, or some freedoms that you're trying to have when you're trying to get work. So that's probably been the most impactful area in my life. And you have to be willing to give some, not all of it, because family is first, but some of it. All right, so here I want to share with you a little bit of me in 2007. Actually, the picture on the right is a little bit probably after 2007. It's really close. I think it was maybe 2008 or early 2009. So I started my business in February of 2007. And the picture on the left, I actually traveled. A church had hired me to come in and do a workshop for them in the pastor's wife's home. And this home was in Abilene. So I had to travel 4 hours to Abilene to do this. Well, how I got my first speaking engagements to help me learn what I was doing was my family attends church everywhere: Waco, Abilene, East Texas, Dallas area. And I'm like, they knew what I was doing, and they asked me, and they paid for me to come down, including my mileage. And this helped me get my business going. Now, I don't know if you know this or not, but in 2007, when I started my business, I honestly, the first part of it, I actually never intended to do the organizing. You're going to say, like, what? I actually was going to do just speaking engagements, what you see me do here. I was just going to teach people. Remember, I was good at teaching, I was good at instructing, and people always asked me questions about organizing. So I pulled all that together and said, I can teach people to be organized in their homes and lives. And you can see here, it says, Get Organized was founded in 2007 to help families organize their home and life. It was never to include businesses, and today it does. So my life and my business, as always, when you start a business, has changed and morphed into something bigger and different. So I only started organizing when people started asking me, hey, Lorraine, can you actually come into my home and do the work? And I was like, well, sure. And that sort of led me into the actual physical organization a few months after I got into the speaking. But the bottom right picture here is actually another workshop event. It was a mom's workshop, very blended, and they had sessions every day. And this organization that puts this on had me speaking all day on different types of organizing topics, and they were very, very well attended. One of the things that I looked for in topics was a lot of topics that were on women's magazines about organizing. What do women want to learn about organizing? Well, look at what the media is talking about. Look at what the magazines are talking about. So I geared my speaking towards things that women were being, I guess they were reading about in magazines, women's magazines like Martha Stewart or Good Housekeeping at the time. Those types of things became very valuable to me to use my research and finding what, because there's always organizational topics in these magazines. What interested is that what I needed to know. Okay, so here is 2008. My team obviously was growing at this time, and we were in a client's home here. I was actually physically working the job of the top one and the bottom one. And what we were doing here was I was training my team. I was working the jobs with them and then training them so they could actually go and figure out how to do the organization. And here you can see in the top picture, we're filling out what we call a consultation form for residential organizing. And they're having to make sure they know the questions to ask, places to put measurements, looking at the family's lifestyle, their tendencies, their habits, and find out how they live so you learn how to organize for them. And one of the big things people don't realize about organizers, well, I guess my organizers that I hire, should I say, is people think they're very organized so they can be an organizer. And it's very important, but that is only a fraction. What makes a great organizer in my case, in my business, is for you to be a problem solver, to think about how a particular family lives or a business functions or the setup of how guys normally like an office. It's amazing. Like, for example, you may think a TV might need to go into a corner because it looks good and it sort of matches where everything is in the room because you're organized, you think aesthetically. But a guy's office or a man cave, if they have a desk and a computer, they're going to want the TV right in front of them. I mean, that's why it's in there. They want to work and watch news or sports or whatever. So you have to think differently. You can't think about how you like things. And there's so many different types of people that like so many different types of things. You have to figure out what your client is. And that's the same with any business. You have to be able to not just what works for you, but what works for other people. So here in 2015, and this is sort of the year, I mean, we were starting to really grow even prior to this. But for 3 years in a row, we were asked to come to the Cowboys Stadium, which is now obviously Arlington Stadium. IKEA wanted us to team up with them. I had a contact at IKEA that I used, and we did the Great Big Texas Home and Garden Show 3 years in a row. We got media coverage for it. I got to speak on stage, big stage at Cowboy Stadium at the time. It was called the IKEA stage because IKEA provided all the products, and you can see behind me there on the right. And the people were in the stadiums and the bleachers, and obviously in a section, I thought in the end zone, and I got to speak to them. But then I also got to meet a lot of different people from HGTV. Ty Pennington, we got to meet here. Obviously, you can see the guy from Yard Crashers. Obviously, the show is not on now. Other guys are taking his place, but I'm just, it puts you in a situation where you can use that coverage, what you're doing, and use it to promote, again, your branding, that if you want to say you've arrived, right? It's something that you want to be able to use this in your marketing, and it makes your company, it validates your company, it validates who you are. This takes time to get, but I absolutely worked hard to get contacted with IKEA, to get on Good Morning Day, Good Morning Texas, Good Day Fox, to go see these people that were on stage that I was sharing the stage with and get photos with them. So it was very important that I do this to continue building the brand of my business. So this was 3 years in a row we did this with all different kind of stars that I got to meet. So here we are in 2020, and we just did a photo shoot at my sister-in-law's house. And so these pictures, this picture right here is actually taken with a cell phone, without a professional camera at all. But she was able to do some settings on her cell phone, and we've got like 400 and something pictures of me recently doing some marketing pictures that we can use in our marketing. And it looks very professional, very clean. And so I'm going to give you an idea where we are today in just a minute. So my team here, we actually have about 20 people that work for me now. I have a full-time office executive assistant that works probably 50 hours a week for me, and she's full-time salary. I have two office personnel that we call client managers, that takes the phone calls, books the appointment, manages everything from invoicing to clients and such. And then I have a payroll HR person that's also part-time, and she does a lot of other office work as well. So, my team administrative has built, and that's when I've had to delegate and pay people, and I don't make as much, but I have to have them if I want to grow, and they support me wonderfully. So here's just a small group of our organizers doing a house. We were doing a training day this day. And then this is two of our organizers working in someone's home, actually three. If you look in the very back, you'll see a third organizer back there. This home was actually in Odessa, Texas, I believe. And this client heard about us from her daughter that used us in Dallas. And this family actually lives in, it's Midland, Texas. And they brought their private jet for us numerous times. And we fly out on it, and we organize their new home or unpack them. And they have homes different places. And we stay there a whole week, and we bring a crew with us on their plane, and then they fly us back. It was a beautiful, beautiful home, beautiful family, and a wonderful opportunity for us to go a little deeper in the organizing. So since 2020, where we are today, we have, over the years, last 2 years, we've started what's called Tip Tuesday here. And this is just sort of expanding on what we do. It's not just organizing. Like I said, we pack, we unpack. It's a plethora of services: Christmas decorating, staging, now, fall decorating. But one of the things we added about a year and a half ago was what's called Tip Tuesday. And on our Facebook page for Get Organized, I do a live Tip Tuesday every Tuesday. That means I'll be doing one later today. And we talk about some type of area that we're going to give you a tip on. In this particular ad here, it's downsizing your parents. And normally the Tip Tuesdays, we used to do like 20 or 30 minutes. Now we're doing more like 10 minutes. But we're giving you practical, real advice about a topic every single Tuesday. And then we upload them to our YouTube page where you can see. So we're building that audience online. Big, big importance. And thankfully, we started this Tip Tuesday prior to grow our social media. And it was wonderful that we started in advance, because now a lot of things have gone online. So it was very, very important for us to do that. And I thought it was very a great added bonus that this was already in place. So Tip Tuesday, we also do a giveaway once a month on Tip Tuesday, which is awesome. So that's our newest social media type thing that we're doing. So this happened. This is the DFW Senior Living Series. It's a in-person online series for people that, whether they be seniors about to start downsizing their life, or they're already there, or maybe their children are interested in helping their parents learn more about the ins and outs of being a senior. This could be legal matters, wills, trusts, probates. This can be moving, downsizing, aging your home. This could be selling your home. This could be learning how to work with your adult children. This could be how to modify your home to live in it longer. Anything dealing with living, seniors living, either in their current home or downsizing. This is something that all seniors would want to watch. We were able to do these at Upscale Senior Communities homes that we partnered with. And then when COVID hit, we had to shut them down, and we probably will not open them until mid next year again. But we created a Facebook page for this, and again, we're targeting seniors to build our business. And naturally, the seniors are going to hopefully use us for their downsizing and packing and all that. And so it was this educational series that hopefully on the end we would get some additional work from it for Get Organized. So that was one of the new things that we started recently. And then our newest project is Get Cleaned. So Get Cleaned is actually a separate business than Get Organized, but they are owned and operated by me and my staff. Now, our organizers are not doing the cleaning. However, what we're doing is we're going to co-market the companies together. So we're going to start, you want to get organized and get cleaned. The marketing, if you look at the logos, if you will look, the Get Clean website's not quite live yet, but you'll look at these and you'll see very, very similarities in the logos and the way that the website is designed. And we want to co-market those. So we're going to promote cleaning services to our organizing clients, and we're going to promote organizing services to our cleaning clients. Now, this is something, it's in the works for about 2 years. I did the legal work on this now that I've been through the business process before. I did the legal work, and I want to make sure that I set it up right from the beginning. So we're creating this one the opposite way we created Get Organized. Get Organized was sort of dive in, figure it out. This one, I'm diving in and doing it, and then we're going to turn the business on and actually start it. So right now we are in the hiring process, and we're only going to be servicing a small area in the parts of Richardson, Plano, Murphy, Wiley area in order to make sure we get this, because this is a new industry for me too, and make sure we master this before we launch into bigger areas. But again, I'm looking at how the businesses can work together. And this is going to be a season of my life for the next year. It's going to be, but again, I want to get over and get out of it. I want to do that. Okay, so let's talk about you getting started. And again, be thinking about your questions here, because, about your specific interests, about ideas that I can help you with your marketing. I have no education in marketing, advertising, starting a business. I am completely self-taught. And if I don't know something, I will let you know. So get started. I've got some pointers here for you guys. So first of all, read up on low cost, no cost marketing. I'm not an avid reader, but when I do read, I normally read self-help books, whether it be about marriages, where it be about raising kids, or in this case, low cost, no cost. The best books you can read at my time that I know was called Guerrilla Marketing. And I would recommend, I think they have a Guerrilla series on a lot of different books, so look it up. But Guerrilla Marketing was a superior book for me to find low cost, no cost ways of actually marketing and getting some publicity for your starting business. And that publicity is, how do you get on that morning show? And you got to be comfortable before you get on there. You got to practice talking to yourself in the mirror. I recorded myself on recording devices, and I would just record myself talking. And then when I got it good, I keep playing it and playing it and playing it and just absorbing how I was speaking, my catchphrases. And that's how I actually learn to speak in a way, especially when you're in front of the camera on TV, you don't want to freeze up, right? You want to make sure you're actually speaking and getting your point across. So the book on guerrilla marketing would be a great read for anybody to read. Find a unique difference in your business. Find that, figure out what that is. Now, my unique on mine was we were organizing for the home, but I wanted organizing for family management. That was my sort of my niche. I wanted to not only organize closets and bathrooms and, pantries. I wanted to organize people's lives. That means their time management, their meal planning, their kids' chores, their allowance systems. I looked at what was, I looked at what was under the clutter, not just the clutter. Organizing the clutter was definitely part of organizing. It was the physical work, right? But I looked at what was causing the clutter. And that was our unique way of organizing someone, because we looked at it from a standpoint of how can we prevent you from getting this way again. Now, it's up to you to own it. It's up to you to make sure you follow through. But often, just because you make something look pretty doesn't mean someone's going to keep it or organized. It's got to be functional. It's got to be system set up. And you have to have the foundations of how that family functions. That made us completely unique in the organizing industry. I have still to this day don't know a company that does that. And you've got to be, well, I'll say it, you've got to be very discerning. You've got to be able to read situations, read people, read how they live. You got to read body languages really well. And you've got to be a really wise person. And wise in just seasoned. You have to be. It's very important if you're going to try to help somebody else. And that wisdom is not always natural to many people. Common sense is not always, it's the least common of all senses many times. Okay, the next thing. Social media value post. Real but professional. So I love being extremely real. I hate fake. I hate, it's fake is not going to help anybody. You can't live perfect. I don't live perfect, but I live well and I do live organized. So when you're posting on social media, definitely set up a page for that. You want to make sure you're offering valuable information, not just saying, hire us to organize your pantry. We'll make your pantry look awesome. Hire us now, call. You don't want that consistently. You can blend that in with your online marketing, but you really want to post things that show you have value. Don't give away the bank. Don't tell them how to do everything, but give them a little bit of information so they're like, oh yeah, I could do that. But then they find out they really can't do that because there's more steps that they're missing. So be real and be professional, and it can be both. And many times you can use your own home as examples. Your family, great examples you could use for posting, and then seeing the before and after, and then telling the story of the struggle. Great way to build your social marketing. Put together media packets. Okay, so you heard me early on say I looked at magazines. So what I did is I put together packets using the covers of magazines. So what I did, I took all these magazines that I found anything about organizing, and I color copied the cover. And what I did is when I color copied the color and I made, PDFs from them, I actually sent that packet to people I was trying to market to on Good Morning Texas and Good Day Fox. And I wrote other things about, my uniqueness, the totally unique way that we slanted the business. And I also included those PDFs in this little, file that I sent them, showing them how popular organizing was. I mean, really, all these mainstream magazines with dates on them that proved they were current, and that their news station needed to have me on to talk about this to their audience. Now, one thing news audiences are going to ask is, they're asking themselves, whether they ask you or not, they're always asking themselves, is this person going to bring value to the viewers or the listeners if it's radio? And you have to be very clear of what you're going to give them. is I'm going to have them walk away with 3 things. They're going to walk away with the best products to use in the pantry. They're going to walk away with tips on organizing their kids' after school snacks. And they're going to walk away with how to keep your baking items organized and proper storage during the holidays. I mean, those 3 things narrowed it down. We're like, oh, that would be a great segment for doing for like Christmas, or, because that's just the pantry speaks about holiday decorating. Kids are still in school in December. All those things were important to their viewers, and they go, yeah, come on. And so make sure you're writing well and speaking well, and make sure, you practice before you go on. All right. Next thing is create your verbal content talking points. So one of the things I did is I dumped my brain on a lot of Word documents, from everything that I knew about cooking tips to organizing tips to storage tips. And I'll give you a couple examples. And it had nothing to do with necessarily all organizing, but again, I wanted to dump all those things that I thought I could have value in talking about. So one of the things that I put is toilet paper rolls. My parents used those when I was growing up to put small extension cords in. I put that on my list. You're like, what does that got to do with anything? Because it's a cool tip that people like to hear about on TV to repurpose something. And yeah, it could be used in the home to organize small extension cords. And you write on the outside of the toilet paper holder if it's a 2-footer or a 3-footer. I remember I would do things like my mother said one time, if you're cooking something and it's going to boil over, you can put like a jelly or whatever it was, you can put sticks of butter on the outside of the rim or the inside of the rim of the pan. And when it starts to boil over, it won't boil over anymore because the butter keeps it down. Well, I put that on there. It was crazy what I put on there, but all these things that came to my mind that I thought I had value to share with people. And then once I dumped all this information, I organize it into different areas: kitchen tips, gardening tips, home tips, parenting tips. And then I started building content off of that to share for my speaking. And then ultimately I used a lot of that for organizing. So it's amazing. I mean, who would have thought a toilet paper roll that was really a big deal when I was a kid? Now I actually talk about in my speaking things and on TV. So it's just, don't ever think what you've learned is too small or too insignificant. It absolutely, in the right content and context, it can be very valuable to people. Context based on seasons and current events. Yes. So if you're going to plug something in for media or even marketing, especially to the media, it has to be relevant to what is going on right now. And that would be, so right now we're going into fall. Weather's good. Garage organization for us is good. Fall decorating, getting ready for Christmas, get your dates scheduled. If you're looking in the news, we've got hurricanes coming in some areas of the states. So you might think, well, I might want to build me a safe area in my home, some kind of go bag, emergency bag if something happens. It could be during the COVID situation, it could be how to organize your mask and your hand sanitizers on the go. I mean, think about what's happening in current events and then make content off of that people want to hear about, because that will be what news stations and magazines and radio shows want. They want relative information for what's going on. All right. Look for media personalities. I scan the newspapers on this and websites. I would scan newspapers for writers for the Dallas Morning News that would do lifestyle segments. I would go and contact radio stations. So one of my first radio stations that I contacted was KLTY. It's a Christian radio station. And I talked to a guy named Frank Reed, which was actually still on there today. And he didn't take me. And I had talked to the producer prior to it. And the producer said, "Oh, you're great." Well, I locked up. And when I talked to Frank Reed, when he said something that was funny, I didn't laugh. And he didn't think I had a personality to be on air. And I probably was just basically, honestly, just new and didn't know all the the things that go on behind radio and TV. Like if the music starts playing and they're fixing to go to a break, then you just got to keep talking and just get to a ending point rather quickly versus just stop talking because the music's playing. You got to learn those things. And I didn't learn them before I talked to him. And so I never got on with him, but I got on with other people, including, oh man, I can't remember his name now, but I think he died not too long ago on one of the radio stations in Dallas. But big, the Kid Craddock show, got on the Kid Craddock show. And just want to tell you, it's, I learn through failures sometimes, and that's okay. So look for medium personalities, contact them. And again, just like you would with any media, sell yourself, make sure you're going to give them content that their viewers are going to want to hear about. Next one is create online and in-person events with co-sponsor. Well, and it could be co-sponsors. It could be one or multiple. But what you want to do is create something that people want to learn about. And there is sometimes a cost. You can try to figure out where space is going to be. Maybe try churches. I did recreation centers. We did businesses opened up a large back room. Normally, you're going to have to find some place that you can use their property. And then both of you get the benefit of having people there. And they get to promote their services and you get to promote yours or whatever it is. But again, it's got to be valuable content. But having some kind of event, that's how I got started, was workshops, was trying to make sure people knew how to organize their meals, their kitchen, their paperwork, their paper clutter, kids' chores. Very, very valuable content. But I had to co-sponsor or sponsor myself with someone or some place to get the building space and for both of us to win. So look at options like that to get your name out. And then we advertise, hey, we're doing this free workshop. People show up. Even if it's 10, you can start with 10 and that's better than none. Build a lead and client database. Oh, wow. What a great thing. I want to tell you here, do this from the very beginning. Figure out how you're going to store every email, every address, every phone number, every name, and make sure you note on there, have a section for notes. And there could be all kinds of apps out there that are free to start. We ended up using what we called Constant Contact, and that is ours currently. And we might be going over to something different in the next few years, but that costs me money. But normally it's really low cost at first. But there's probably free ones out there. You could use an Excel spreadsheet if you wanted to. Just make sure that you have the proper fields. So when you do go bigger and you do have a paid service, you can put all those in there really easy from an Excel spreadsheet. But build that database because you're going to want to email them about your services and about new things you're doing and about workshops. And you're going to create that marketing opportunity. Real quickly here. When COVID shut down, we shut down a lot outside of our packing and unpacking services, which were considered essential services to the moving industry. Even though our revenue has lost 50% this year, what has helped us stay in business and keep working is we have over 15,000 people in our database. And guess who we marketed to during that time? Our 15,000 people database. And those people, when they were at home, they didn't mind us coming over, a single individual wearing a mask. We got to organize for them while they were at home or pack for them. That kept us in business. And it was that and the people that we had networked with, that had sponsored with us, they would refer us out and keep us in business. That's what sustained us as far as from a practical standpoint. All right, let's go in here. So add and expand. And this is what we've done. We've added services and we've expanded services over the years because that's really, really important because you always want to keep new forms of revenue. The same people we organize for is the same people we fall decorate for and the same people we Christmas decorate for and the same people we take down Christmas decorating for, right? I mean, you can get all of their business and hopefully the next thing will be the cleaning. Okay. Hire, help, and delegate. I told you this. You must delegate if you want to be able to expand, even if it means less money. Add other services or products slowly, one thing at a time. and get it down and get it well, and then add more. If you want to add, like the cleaning business, I can't, there's other things I want to do, but I've got solely focused on this right now until it's up and running. Create systems for everything. Everything. Create a manual as you go, especially if you're going to have other people working with you. Write a paragraph of how something's supposed to do, or 2 paragraphs, how it's supposed to work, how they're supposed to report their time in, how payroll is handled. Start with the very basics, but create systems for them. Don't wing it. Package your products or services to make them extra special. Bows, something. Our cleaning services, they're going to have a sticker on the toilet paper roll. They're going to have a lemon fresh garbage disposal scent thing dropped in every time. So package those things. Seek legal advice when needed. Absolutely seek it. I would definitely do that. You know, you need to seek this if your services, whatever, going to do sales tax. I would definitely check there first. But that's always important. We didn't do it later on with Get Organized. With Get Clean, we did it really front and center. Turn down to turn up. In other words, or to rev up. In other words, you got to turn down some things sometimes when you're working on something because you just don't have the bandwidth. And that will actually make you more successful. If you keep taking on everything, and as you're revving up services, you just got to say no to things. No for a seat. Build scheduled office and field time. That means working, right? Working in the office, working out in the field. Always look for an angle to improve. And I look for angles in everything. Everything that I read in marketing, everything that I read on the internet, if it's an opportunity for me, I love to be able to look for an angle. I think we're about done here, and I'm going to take some questions here. So here is just our logo for Get Organized and some of the services at the bottom that we actually offer. So what I'd like to know is, we'll stop sharing there. If any of you guys have any certain questions about either myself or you starting a business, I would absolutely love to help you and give you some advice.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Lorraine. So for the Q&A portion, feel free to post any questions that you have in our chat box. You can send them to all panelists, which will just, Lorraine and I will just be able to see them, or you can send them to all panelists and attendees if you want everyone in the group to see them as well. You can also use our Q&A box below, and that gives you the option to submit questions in anonymously if you would like to. We'll be monitoring either way. Let's see. I think we had one question that was sent in ahead of time, Lorraine, so I'm going to go ahead and read that one out. And that one is, do you retain in do you outsource to like an attorney, or how do you kind of handle that, you know, running a small business and have to, you know, do you go into any kind of contracts or anything like that? I think is what they're asking.
You mean, hopefully she can clarify herself, but we had contracts with, some of our people were employees. Mm-hmm. And other people were contractors that works for us, and still do. We still have some contracting organizers, and we have to come up with an agreement. So what we ended up doing was, at first we put some things together ourselves. And I think that was fine to start off with. Obviously, I needed to make sure my insurance covered them. That's why you have to have a contract. But even my handmade contracts myself that I created, we did have an episode where someone's foot went through the ceiling, and my insurance company made me send in their contract. And as long as it was a document that they had signed, how much they were working for Get Organized, what their job description was, our insurance covered it. Later on, as we grew more, I did have an attorney that was a business attorney draw us up one. In fact, we just updated it last month. So okay. Yeah, but at first you don't have to have that.
Okay. Yeah, I think the person
you don't have to have that if they're employees, but you do have to have it if they're a contractor.
Awesome. Great. So we have another question that come in. It says they are starting a cleaning business. What's the best way to pay employees, hourly or percent per job? Example 70-30.
Well, be honest with you, I was leaning towards hourly myself recently, but I believe now it is percentage after I've sort of worked through it. Because you've got to think about paying those cleaning people for commuting in between homes, going to get supplies and storage, refilling cleaning bottles and stuff. So I would recommend doing a percentage over an hourly rate, and that percentage can be higher than an hourly rate because you have to include time for them commuting. But I won't pay time for commuting because I'm giving their percentages a higher. So I think you have better cost control over how much you're paying people if you do a percentage and leave it at that versus an hourly rate for this, an hourly rate for that, and it gets more time consuming.
Awesome. Let's see. I don't see any other questions that have come in so far.